What's up, friends? We're live. Welcome to Nurturing Our Nature podcast, where we help you on your self improvement journey through, well, we got a lot of tools. We use biology,
Biology.
we use psychology, we
Hmm.
use a little philosophy,
Think about it.
we use a little bit of love. What's
All
up,
the
guys?
love.
Okay,
What it do, Daniel? How you doing?
I'm chilling, brother. I'm chilling.
Brother. We out
I'm
here chilling.
chilling. I'm chilling, my brother.
We are chilling. Feels good, man. It's good.
Yeah,
It was a nice weekend. I'll tell you that.
it was a great weekend. I
Yeah.
think, I think, I think what we have. Did I tell you about the experiences when you have a great weekend? What you get like after you come back from a really good time is you have to return back to tonic. So when you roll around to Monday and you've had a freaking blast on your weekend and you've been hanging out with people, you've been hearing great sounds, you've been seeing great sights, and then you return to your workday mundane day on Monday, and what are you doing? You're back in the same old place, and how does your brain respond to that? Well, it returns you back to tonic. You have less neurochemical dopamine available for your experience of the pursuit of pleasurable things. So when you're sitting there, dude, this is literally the neurochemistry that I was reading into. It's the neurochemistry of motivation. We're gonna we have to have a separate episode of that because that's like that's like such a foundational set of concepts that I found. Like, but just knowing where I'm at, like I know that this weekend, okay, it was my birthday. Okay, I partied with people. I went home, hung out with my family. Just a lot of stimulation, a lot more than I'm used to. So when I return back to work and it's like the same old thing and it's not like novelty thrown in my face, you have to have a day where you go below tonic, and then guess what's going to happen tomorrow? You'll probably return back to your baseline. But if you go above, you have to go below to even it out. So you're going to secrete this much dopamine, you're going to secrete this much afterwards, and then you're going to level out. And tomorrow will feel like, oh, it's back to normal. It's so funny. I saw so many people at work today and they were just yawning and they're like, oh, I'm so tired. And I'm like, well, what'd you do this weekend, bub? I didn't say it like that, but I was like, did you have a good weekend? They're like, yeah, I did a lot of stuff. I was out here at the beach and I was partying with these people and I did all this. And it's Monday. And I think that's why people say, oh, he's got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah. It's funny because I definitely would argue that a good weekend is rejuvenating. I don't know if that maybe that's just an extrovert thing, but there's no doubt that you've got a point when it comes to the homeostasis of the dopamine and how it must return and have a counter yin yang to how good your weekend was. But I certainly, as well, seeing people, listening to good music, if you get the chance to see live music, going to a festival, those things are fantastic. And as long as you stay hydrated, I'm sure you can come back Monday ready to kick it, ready to get back to work and also have that rejuvenation, that extrovert rejuvenation. I may be alone
Right.
on that one, or maybe in not the grand majority, but certainly, I'm glad you had a good weekend, and
It was good.
it seems like you're shaking off the Mondays pretty well. You seem top notch to me, very crisp.
Well,
In thought,
yet
not like
in
in crispy complexion.
I mean, bro, if I get out in the sun, you'll see. Oh, you'll see, dude. I can get, dude, dude. I'm pretty sure I can go down like two or three tones from this. Like
I'm jealous.
I'm
I am.
borderline like a different ethnicity if I stay
I
out in
think
the sun long
my tan
enough.
is your white. I'm pretty sure.
Yo, okay. So earlier you mentioned this is a topic that I would love to dive into with you right now. Right now, are
10 out of 10
artists,
dive.
dude? Let's freaking nosedive into this bit. Are artists becoming less talented on account of the technological availability that we have? Are music artists, is music dying?
So I think that there is, last time we talked about the science of music and how there is a mathematical analysis, music theory, if you will, as to why things are satisfying. I think that we know too much, and there's like less experimentation. There's less like just pouring out of these artists and their like feelings and emotions in their music. And now it's just like an algorithm that they're trying to please, you know? So as a producer, I'm not really sure what they do um, with each individual client or with like labels, right? Record labels. But I imagine that the people that blow up and that get really popular, it's not so much because they're talented, but because maybe their range is within like a very pleasant tone, you know, that is easily popularized with pop music, and like the harmonies and the frequencies are available there. Um, and obviously, like I mean, we can go into how there's probably a lot of influence that's not just music, you know, once people get to this uh, grandiose, bigger than life um, level of musicianship, especially like in pop music or I'm generalizing because there's pop music in every ethnicity, but let's just call it popular
Right.
music for
Right.
now. Obviously, these artists at some point also become a bit of these characters or these artists or rather actors aside from their
Yeah.
music, you know, to kind of promote this or that. And I don't know how much of it is genuine and how much of it's actually directed by the record label. The same goes for their music. I don't know how much of that is genuine or how much of that is directed by the labels. You know, people
Are
that are,
you are you talking about somebody like Posty, dude?
well,
How much of
I
Posty
need to,
used to be genuine?
I don't know, man. Like, you gotta, I don't know these people. That's why, like, I'm just speculating. I feel like someone like Post Malone, he, you know, I found his music very entertaining when I discovered it, and you know, I still have respect for the who I know him to be, right? Because I don't know him, but from what I've seen him in the limelight, in videos, interviews, etc., he seems like a fun person to be around. A genuinely nice guy. I think even he himself knows how unbelievably big he is. He's like even when he's like not willing to take it seriously. He's like, bro, just you know. And
Yeah,
I think the guy has got a lot of emotion. Can you hear me all right? Is my camera lagging? I
you're a
skipping
little
words here.
bit you're a little bit
Couldn't tell.
skippy
I saw
skip.
my face teleport.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
Well,
some of what you're
point
saying was lost, but
point
I
is
got most of it.
okay. Is I think like Post Malone has a lot of raw emotion that even when he is signed to a label and even when he's contracted to perform and you know produce music in a certain way, I think his raw emotion still seemed to do the work somewhat. Maybe it did more before he was as popular as he does now. I think that his last album he kind of was selecting quite a bit in the world that he's in with being as popular as he is and kind of getting lost in the sauce of Hollywood, you know?
Hmm.
And, and as he came out of it, I still don't, again, I don't know him personally. So this is me all just speculating. But going back to what you said earlier, like, do you think that music today has talent? I think that there's plenty of people in this world that are musically talented. Heck, I wouldn't even call it talent. I think there's people that practice and like incredible music. They're out there, but they're not as popular as what's being promoted. Like, hey, let me simplify. Music is like lacking talent. Yeah, it's just an algorithm, and it's all calculated in the studio in order to make a sound that is going to be successful versus themselves pour their emotion into lyrics into the song in order to be heard. You know,
Right. You are a little bit laggy. A little bit laggy.
some like Post Malone to keep with that example. He definitely is being like churned out for money by try labels and such.
You are inaudible at this point. Like it's pretty laggy.
Really?
Like I can hear you,
You're
but it's like bark, 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 bark.
bro. I've been 5 minutes.
like 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 the first 3 minutes was
How about
good.
you start talking?
Okay,
How about you start talking? Let me know things.
so my thoughts. I think you bring up an interesting set of points, and I think what's the first thing that kind of struck me, like what is genuine music, like versus what the producer, is pushing out. How come what the let's say hypothetically the producer like knows that this is a hit, or if you make music with this algorithm, that you'll be more likely to generate views on YouTube or whatever platform. What is it about that isn't genuine? Is it because the person that made that music is no longer making the music for the sake of just sharing a set of emotions? Or is it is music only genuine when it doesn't desire an outcome? Like when music is done for purely the sake of like, this is the set of emotions that I'm feeling, and I'm going to write this in a song, and I'm not doing this for the views. I'm not doing this for the money that I could potentially get. I think that's maybe my hypothesis, maybe, is that that's what we're after when we talk about what genuine music is, and what actually, like, what touches us most in music. Maybe it's not the formula behind it, but maybe it's the lack of the formula. Maybe we can actually sense what is AI made, what is so formulaic that it doesn't connect with what makes us feel whole as human beings. And instead, it's that lack of formula, that lack of, like like very, I guess, like AI generated, that makes us feel like more in touch with the, let's say, whatever emotion that we desire to feel, because you can listen to different kinds of music for every emotion. So I mean, I think maybe that's part of the answer in terms of what would constitute genuine music. um and it kind of sucks, because I feel like this is the era where if you ain't building followers, you ain't doing it right. It does kind of take away from genuine experiences and genuine. I mean, that's the whole thing with this podcast. To kind of go off on a side rant here, like, why would we do something like this? Because I think genuine conversation is something that needs to be had. It's not something that happens frequently enough. It's a lot of superficial talk. Um, and so podcasting represents something to me that's authentic. And the second that we start doing it for, let's say, we've made a hit, we had a podcast that was millions of followers and whatever, it's like, well, if we start doing it for those reasons, is it really the genuine conversation that we had initially set out to do? Because podcasting itself represents free form dialogue. And so free form dialogue, I think, it represents freedom. I think what we want nowadays, everybody's tired, or at least a lot of people are tired. If they're awake, conscious human beings, people are tired of of buying into the contrived, the very formulaic, the very like scripted experience. We want to be disconnected from that, to have genuine experience, and that's what comes from like podcast style conversations like what we're doing right here.
Yeah, and I think you phrased that beautifully when it came to, what really is genuine. What are we trying to define here? And I think you do a good job of making sure to not discredit the music that's popularized just because it's formulaic, but simply to point out its origins and its purpose. Is it to express emotion, or is it simply meant to derive audience will that it's lucrative? Music, and I know for a fact that I've listened to plenty music that is not what we would call indie. I listened to plenty of music that I know for a fact was not published until everyone in the studio thought to themselves, yep, this is a banger. This is going to go off in the club. I can't wait for this to get signed? And I've, I'm not going to say I'm a victim, a fan, rather, of these songs. But when I sit there and meditate on the music I'm listening to, it's really empty, you know? Is it energizing? Certainly. Can you dance to it? Can you have fun with your friends? Yeah, that's what it's made for. But what feeling is this song actually providing you? What meaning it's behind the lyrics and the music and the harmony? And at that point, you got to ask yourself, does the meaning of a song really only matter to what you assign to it? Does it matter if it's from a genuine artist or from a heavily produced company meant to design popular music? Because if you have a soulless EDM pop song playing on the radio 24/7, and then it correlates to an eventful moment in your life, it doesn't matter what the point of that song was when it was made. Now that song is forever correlated to that impactful event in your life. So it's kind of hard to arbitrarily categorize genuine versus not genuine meaning without understanding that we ourselves as a listener can assign a meaning to the music as well, aside from its purpose.
And that's huge, right? Because that's and this is that philosophical concept of meaning is created by the individual. That's a very modern a modern philosophy, which I think in some regards it does hold true, that meaning can be, you can place meaning on anything, and you can, in a sense, like, just because one day somebody called this the color blue, well, why do I have to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, this blue could represent something totally different to me. Blue is usually associated with sadness, but to me blue represents tranquil and peaceful. So, I mean, to kind of dive into that rabbit hole a little bit, like, yeah, who, if you've had good memories around, let's say, a particular song, but let's say that that song itself isn't, kind of like you're saying, it's like very overproduced, it's like very super formulaic, like just like a very like lame chord progression pop EDM song. Um,
Hey, don't trash talk my EDM.
no, no, no. Like
No, I'm kidding.
there's
Go
some
on with your
EDM
point.
that's out there, bro. I love EDM. You already know, but like there's some EDM that's out there. It's like the pop EDM. It's like the very superficial EDM that isn't like deep house or like that EDM that's like very like trance house. Like it doesn't have much to it. Um, it's just pop EDM. It's like it has some of the elements of it, but it's a very basic set of like
Much more repetition, less like melodic
repetition.
exploration.
Yeah, it's not the most creative stuff. So, yeah, you know, if you had like this is how it was for me. What was it called? Alicia Cara's uh baby, why don't you just no,
Meet
that's another
me in
song.
the
I mean,
middle.
that's one.
That's
It kind of
yes,
sounded like
yeah.
that. The other one's like waiting for the time to pass you by.
You notice something? You're talking about EDM songs, but you're singing lyrics. Do you think that songs with lyrics are innately
Thousand
more
reasons why.
meaningful? Oh, I know which one you're talking
And all you have to do is wait a minute. Okay,
Mm-mm-mm.
like yeah, that song. So like, dude, it's a super basic. Like, it's not. I mean, but then again, maybe it isn't too basic because Zed was in there and Zed did some really cool. Maybe okay, I can't bash on that too much. You know, like
I know.
Zed.
And the more I go into the conversation, the more I'm like, let me back up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm
like
too close-minded about
look,
this.
like Zed. Zed did some really cool stuff with her voice. Like he did this vocoder effect, um, basically where like it creates a chorus over the top of Alicia Cara's voice, and it makes her like sound like a chorus, but it's just her, and it does. The harmonies are actually pretty good. Um, I won't bash on that too much. It is kind of pop EDM-y, but you know,
Maybe you just fell for the algorithm there. You know,
maybe
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 you
the
were
vibes that I had
bashing
around
it,
that.
and then it just all of a sudden, like you said, the meaning that you applied to it and the feeling that the song gave you is so positive that you can't even bash it anymore.
Maybe you never know, dude. Because that time that song was associated with senior year of undergrad, a very fun time in my life. Um,
Woo-woo.
yeah.
Yeah,
S
absolutely. I think that, it's meant to be associated with that kind of time of your life, you know? That's
right.
probably why a lot of older people, now I'm not going to say I haven't seen older people at EDM festivals because I have, but it's rare. And maybe that's why it's because that they're in a different chapter of their life now, maybe exciting in a different way.
Hmm.
So that the music doesn't really apply. So the meaning that that music is designed to be correlated with, it's just not the chapter of their life that they're experiencing. So they're
Yeah.
like, man, get that old people, get that young hoo ha music away from me. Get that beepity boppity out here.
Yeah. I
And then you notice what they like. They like the pop music from their era. Why is that? Is the music better? Or is it because they associate it with the good times when they were younger? Same reason we do with this music.
right. So again, there's always nuance. There's always so much nuance to every set of opinions that you could ever have. Um, See, let's like initially you're just like, nah, dude, all the music nowadays is trash. And then like you already know, bro. Maybe like 30 years down the line, we'll be listening to J Beebs. We'll throw on a little J Beebs and
Hey,
be like, man, you remember baby, baby, baby. Ah.
no, I don't think I'll ever like that one. I'm sorry.
uh,
But
or
he did kind of glow up.
Despacito.
He did glow
Despacito.
up kind of bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
His music, I think, matured with his audience, if you will,
Mm,
and with him, because he was like 13 when Baby came out or whatever. He was a
right.
baby.
Right.
Now, with that said, I was not around when Frank Sinatra was on stage with the Rat Pack, but I still absolutely adore that style of music. But I have my own correlation with it, whether it be study time with some jazz or some downtime, away from the books, away from work. Actually, a lot of music from that era I categorize with time that I spent with my grandfather. and my
Hmm.
dad, because it's just something that they put on whenever we were at a family function. And so that wholesome vibe that I have with that music is actually from my experiences. So the more we discuss this, the more I come to the conclusion that regardless of the purpose of the music, the experiences you have with it truly drive the meaning that you associate and consider integral to what that song is.
Partly, I'm gonna have to say in part because I can't. My fucking mic just fell. I can't I can't say like 100% that there hasn't been that one piece of music that I've listened to and the composition itself was just so like moving just by listening to it once. I was like, dude, did you hear that? Did you hear those chords he used and the way that his voice moved with those chords? I just heard it once and already I've had an experience. So
No,
maybe
no
I
life experience correlation. It's just the music
it's
itself
just the
hits.
music itself, which I think that can totally happen too. That's if like I was talking about earlier, if that person wrote that piece of music with so much like genuine feeling and so much love, and they had an experience that they had happen in their life and they wrote that piece of music based off of that, or an emotion that they were feeling, maybe not even necessarily an experience, but they're feeling this emotion and they just wrote that piece of music, and it the way that the instrumentation came together along with that person's voice was just moving, and that can totally happen too. So I think part of it, dude, so music, yes, it can be deeply rooted with past experiences and like build associations, just like smells can build associations with any set of past memories. Like you sniff something or you drive by something, you're like, man, that smell reminds me of when I was this age and I used to do this thing. And like you hear this song, and immediately, if I heard that song I was talking about earlier, like immediately, what do I go to? That past experience. Um, so I think it can be a combination of one or the other, or one or the other, where you associate it with something, or the writing of that music itself is just so moving, or to add even more nuance to that last thing, the writing of the piece was so technically sound. Somebody like me who really enjoys like a good like set of rhythms that makes me freaking groove, dude. If I get something that makes me groove and I forget who I am and what I'm doing for the next like 3.5 minutes because of that freaking groove, and it's just so technically sound, and like, dude, this is how some of the metal songs are, like the rhythms that they throw in there, the way that it makes me feel, and I lose track of time for 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever, however long the piece is, like like that to me is a sign of something good right there. So I think it's very nuanced, and I can't, as with all things, this is why you have to have podcast style discussions, because you can't just say, well, all music nowadays sucks. Well, it's like, nah, it's not that simple.
So yeah, think about it, and I'm gonna add some more nuance to the point you just made. How about music where the beat has just such a intoxicating groove? It just puts you in this uppity dancing state.
Hmm.
And then someone asks you like, "Oh, like what are the lyrics to that song?" And you're like, "Oh, I don't know. I never really paid attention to the lyrics." And then you actually go and you read the lyrics, and the lyrics are extremely depressing. An example of this is someone like Joji. Joji's music is practically like a lo-fi but yet hype style of music. And it's got quite a groove that I'm sure if you put it on whenever, it's kind of like when a song's playing in a restaurant, you could hear it just enough to pick up on that groove
You know how many
of
times I've heard
the
Joji's Sanctuary in an
melody.
actual restaurant? Like Joji's
Exactly.
Sanctuary plays in a random department store or a restaurant everywhere at least once a day randomly when I walk in,
Yeah.
if I do. It's hilarious.
Yeah, good for him. Good for Filthy Frank. As much as he wants to separate
Rip.
from his past YouTube channel, I can't let him. I can't let Filthy Frank die.
No.
But memes aside, Joji slash Filthy Frank slash Pink Guy,
Yeah.
he has done an incredible job as a musical engineer to make songs that are just groovy. Like they're catchy, you know. But the lyrics, I mean, I genuinely believe that that's him writing this stuff, or at least he's got hella influence in what's being written, because it's got quite a dark side to it, almost like the failed romance between him, his fans, and his position as a larger than life musician, and then also his broken ability to still be human, still be himself, not Joji, not Filthy Frank, not Pink Guy, but himself. The actual I don't even know his name. Do you know the actual artist's name? All I know are those three stage names.
Yeah. I don't
You
know his
know?
real name either.
Yeah,
Maybe
like
he
that's a
hides it.
perfect,
Hides it for like himself.
well, and I wouldn't blame him. In fact, I actually saw him on stage. Actually, I take it back. I haven't seen him, but I saw a video of him on stage, and he had to actually leave early. He just cut it short, and it turns out that he actually has a severe like performance anxiety. So
Mm.
he can kind of like tell when he's about to have an episode because the stimulation is just so overwhelming that he'll just politely excuse himself and be like, "Hey, I love you guys. I gotta go. Sorry," and just like walk off stage. And I think that uh, that level of honesty with himself to be able to interrupt his own concert like that also comes across in his lyrics. In a way, where it's just like catchy, groovy pop music for the masses, sang by a broken man. You know,
Right. And you know what's interesting? Let's think about. I want to think about what that represents in his life. So, you take somebody who has lyrics that are very dark, very like a lot of dark themes, but then you
melancholy.
melancholy, um, yeah, like dreary. I mean, some of the music that he does, right? Like you think of, what's I don't even remember all the names.
Maybe Lil
What's
B.
Dancing in the Dark?
Mm,
I mean, that's that the lyrics match the tone of the song. So overall, it's very like succinct with like what are you trying to make us experience as the listeners? But let's go into something like I Can't Get Over You with like Clams Casino in there. Okay, so that's a very
mhm.
funny one. It's like the lyrics are very like I can't get over you. It's like it's a very melancholic like set of lyrics, but the actual tone of the music itself is very upbeat and very like it's very like
It's happy. Yeah.
it's happy and fun. So what does that represent? It's like you have a guy who he's got all these like very deep like kind of sad emotions, and you have music over the top of that's like it's kind of saying like, hey, it's okay, it's all right, because guess what, in life you're going to experience these sad emotions. And it's almost like I wonder if Joji's like trying to create this type of setting where it's like, you know, despite all these sad things that I'm singing about, it's going to be okay because this is all in the context of life and life itself. Despite all of these sad things that it throws at us, it still goes on, and it's still part of this one big happy song. Even that which we perceive as sad is still part of a happier song. It's like it's like, you know, I think it's kind of great how he does that, because I think that's ultimately, I think that speaks to the reality of things. I think ultimately life itself is a good thing. The potential experiences that we can have, whether they're bad or good, they always end up in some sense for our greatest good. And a lot of people might not agree with that, might not believe that, but I think that's one of those things where Like if you look at life that way, that's what you end up experiencing. Even the ebbs and flows are all, again, it goes up and it goes down, but it's still an equilibrium.
See, I thought it was more of a sad clown persona where it's this man whose job is to entertain, but inside, behind the makeup, behind the clown shoes, it's a sad man. But what you say, slightly more optimistic, is actually someone who has the self awareness to supersede the depressing moments of life and actually learn how to smile about it, actually learn how to not let the dark times bring you down, but rather celebrate the fact that you're still here, the fact that you can even move forward and encourage that.
Right.
It's not breakup music meant to keep you in a blanket burrito for months, but rather breakup music that's supposed to get you up and moving and feeling good while also acknowledging what you're being torn away from.
And that's huge because it does acknowledge those emotions. It's not saying that those emotions are invalid, and that's like it's relationship 101. Don't invalidate your partner's emotions. You shouldn't invalidate your own emotions either. So that music actually in some sense validates it, but then it's not saying, hey, wallow in these emotions. At least as far as my interpretation. This is what makes music fun. Is you can interpret it in so many different ways, kind of like what you and I are just talking about right now. Like my interpretation is like it does acknowledge these sad emotions that humans are capable of, but it keeps on going, and that's the beauty of music. Is that music is sound organized in time. That's the definition of music. So if that's the case, it does keep on going because it's
It
that's
has to.
that's how music. It's literally in order for it to be defined as music, it has to keep going. So yes, you're experiencing these emotions, but ultimately it does come to an end.
Yeah. I imagine people that what we were just talking about, how, the meaning of music can be correlated to the experiences that you had with it. And I wonder, talking about like breakup music and stuff, I wonder if that music can become a positive connotation, even when it's correlated to, oh my God, I listened to that album on repeat a bunch of times after we broke up. But when you look back on it, you're like, oh wow, like I really appreciate this album because it got me through that. And now I listen to it in celebration
Right.
of being able to move forward,
Right.
I
Again, though, I
definitely would
just
say Joji's albums and such have I could look at them in a really positive light, despite their maybe their intended meaning. But
yeah.
as we said, maybe the intended meaning after all was to supersede those sad times and instead learn to go with the groove of life and dance to the song, even when it's a sad song.
Hmm. Um, it's getting kind of late for me. I have to go to bed at 9:30.
All right, old man.
Yeah.
This was nice. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate your flexibility and diversity. We didn't go as scientific today, but we were still talking about music.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
I
that's
say it
that's
goes right there with the episode 1 of our music therapy season.
right. I mean, this is what this is for. We don't we just want to chat about stuff. We chat about stuff. That's it. That's what we do. So, I think we should call it cuz I have to go to bed.
Well, you heard it from Daniel. This has been Nurturing Our Nature with Renee and, of course, the tired Daniel. we'll be signing off, maybe listening to a tune or two before we go to bed. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
Cheers.